A letter from a vanished colleague arrives 10 years late, leading archivist Thomas Harris to a powerful man's fraud. The real threat is the person who just delivered it.
Thomas Harris lived alone. His life followed a specific pattern. He woke each day at 6:45. He showered, dressed in a pressed shirt, and ate one bowl of oatmeal. He left his apartment at 8:10. He took the same bus, sitting in the third row if it was vacant. He worked as an archivist in a quiet office. He ate lunch at his desk, a sandwich, an apple. He returned home on the 6:20 bus. He grocery shopped on Thursday evenings. He prepared his meals for the following day each night. He spoke to his sister on the phone every Sunday. These calls were brief. His neighbors did not know his name. His colleagues were polite but distant. His routine was reliable. It was also very quiet. One Tuesday, a slight deviation occurred. A water main broke on his usual route. His bus was diverted. He walked a different 4 blocks to the office. The city was loud and unfamiliar on those blocks. He arrived at his desk feeling unsettled. The feeling lingered through the morning. At lunch, he found his apple was bruised. He had not noticed at the store. He set it aside. That evening, the diverted bus route was still in effect. The walk to the alternate stop passed a small park. He saw people sitting on benches. They were talking. He did not pause. He entered his apartment at 7:17, later than usual. The rooms were very still. He prepared baked chicken and green beans. He ate at the small table. The silence was complete. After dinner, he washed his single plate. He dried it and put it away. He sat in his chair. He looked at the clock. It was 8:20. He considered the next day. It would return to the normal pattern. The bus route would likely be restored. He would be at his desk by 8:50. He thought of the bruise on the apple. He thought of the park benches. A question formed. It was a simple question. If he did not wake up at 6:45 tomorrow, who would call? His sister would not call until Sunday. His office would perhaps send an email after 2 days of absence. His landlord would not check until the first of the month. The question hung in the quiet room. He did not answer it. He sat for a long time. Then he stood and went to the kitchen. He filled a glass with water. He drank it. He went to bed at 10:30. He set his alarm for 6:45. The apartment was dark. The city sounds were distant. He closed his eyes. Outside, the traffic moved. People passed below his window. The night continued as it always did. The envelope was on his doormat. Thomas picked it up. It was standard size, yellowed at the edges. The stamp was 10 years old. It was not his mail carrier's usual time. He turned the envelope over. The return address was from Mark Riley. He had not seen or heard from Mark in 9 years. He brought the envelope inside. He set it on the kitchen table. He finished putting away his groceries. He hung his coat. Then he sat down. He looked at the postmark. It was a circular cancellation stamp from the main city post office. The ink was black and clear. The date on the postmark was yesterday. He held the envelope very still. The stamp was old. The paper was old. But the postmark was from yesterday. This was not a letter lost in the system. It had been processed very recently. Someone had put this old letter into the mail yesterday. The handwriting was Mark's. He recognized the sharp angles of the letters, but Mark had not sent it yesterday. Someone else had. That person had found the letter. They had chosen to mail it now. Thomas opened the envelope. He removed a single sheet of paper. It was a birthday card. The front had a cartoon dog. Inside, Mark had written a short message. It was generic. "Hope you're well. We should catch up soon." It was signed Mark. The birthday was from 10 years ago. He had never received it. He placed the card on the table. He looked at the envelope again. He looked at the postmark. The process was simple. A person finds an old letter. They could throw it away. They could keep it. Instead, they took it to the main post office. They paid for new postage. They chose to use the old stamp. They sent it.
Why do that? It was a message. The message was not from Mark. The message was the act of delivery itself. It said, I have something of yours. It said, I know where you live. It said, I am thinking of you. Thomas stood up. He walked to the window. He looked down at the street. It was empty. He returned to the table. He put the card back into the envelope. He placed the envelope in the center of the table. He made his dinner. He ate it at the table, facing the envelope. He washed his dish. He dried it. Later, he sat in his chair. He did not turn on the television. The envelope remained on the table. The quiet of the apartment felt different. It was no longer empty. It was now a quiet that contains this object. He went to bed at his usual time. He did not sleep for a long while. He listened to the sounds of the building. A door closed downstairs. Pipes clicked in the wall. In the other room, on the table, the envelope waited.
Chapter 3. The card contained a letter. Thomas unfolded it. The letter was from Mark. It was dated 10 years ago. It was an apology for their final project. Mark described an accounting irregularity. He explained how the official records were made to appear correct. The details were technical. Thomas recognized the project names. Then he saw a specific sentence. Mark had written, the real deficit was hidden in Project Aries under client code Kingfisher. Only you, me, and Simon knew the access key. I am taking this secret with me. Thomas sat perfectly still. Simon, he knew that name. Simon was now a leading venture capitalist. His photograph was in financial publications. He was described as formidable. He was described as relentless. The phrase was deliberate. I am taking this secret with me. It implied a permanent departure. It suggested Mark had died. The letter was old. Mark had likely been gone for years. The implications became clear. This letter was evidence. It documented a concealed financial crime. It named Simon as a participant. Such evidence could cause significant damage. It could destroy a reputation. It could invite legal action. The event was old, but the proof was new. Someone had discovered this letter. That person had read it. They understood its contents. They did not destroy it. They chose to mail it. They sent it to Thomas. Therefore, someone knew Thomas had this information. That person could be Simon. It could be an associate. It could be a stranger. The result was identical. Thomas was in possession of a dangerous fact. A dangerous man might know he possessed it. The delivery was intentional. It was a provocation. Thomas did not understand the goal. He refolded the paper. He placed it back into the card. He slid the envelope into the envelope. He stood up. He held the envelope. He could not leave it in the open. He walked to a bookshelf. He selected a heavy volume. He placed the envelope between its pages. He returned the book to the shelf. He sat down again. He looked at the bookshelf. The quiet of the room felt different. It was no longer empty. It was now filled with a silent, shared knowledge. Tomorrow was a workday. He would follow his schedule. He understood his predictable movements were a liability. They made him easy to observe. This was a problem with no immediate solution. He remained in the chair. The evening passed. He did not move for a long time. Chapter 4. 2 days after the letter, Thomas made a call. He looked up the number for a former colleague. Her name was Anya. They had worked on Project Aries. He called from his landline in the evening. The phone rang several times. Anya answered. Her voice was quiet. Thomas stated his name. He said he was calling about some old files. He mentioned Project Aries. There was a long silence on the line. Then Anya spoke. Her words were a hurried whisper. Do not call this number again, she said.
You must not call. They are watching everything." The line went dead. Thomas placed the receiver back in its cradle. He stood by the phone. He looked out the window. The street was dark. A streetlight was out. He went about his evening. He prepared a meal. He cleaned the kitchen. He tried to read a book. He could not focus on the words. Later that night, he went to the window again. A car was parked across the street. It was a dark sedan. It was not a car he recognized from the neighborhood. The headlights were off. The engine was off. He could not see inside. He turned off his own lights. He sat in the dark chair. He watched the car. It did not move. No one entered or exited. After several hours, he went to bed. He did not sleep well. In the morning, he returned to the window. The sedan was gone. The space across the street was empty. He went downstairs to collect his mail. On the curb, directly below his living room window, was a single cigarette butt. It had been smoked down to the filter. The filter was not a standard brand. It was a distinctive gold color. The paper was a deep blue. It was a very expensive brand. Thomas knew its name. He had seen it in magazines. He had never smoked one. He could never afford to. He looked at the cigarette butt. He looked at the empty space where the sedan had been. He did not touch it. He collected his mail. He went back upstairs. He locked his door. He stood in his kitchen. He understood the sequence: the phone call, the warning, the car, the cigarette. It was a message. It was a very clear message. The message said he was being observed. The message said they knew where he lived. The message said they had resources he did not. His routine was now a performance for an unseen audience. He would go to work today. He would take the bus. He would sit at his desk. He understood that every step was being noted. He left his apartment at 8:10. As he walked to the bus stop, he did not look around. He kept his eyes forward. Thomas went to the public library during his lunch hour. He used a computer terminal. He searched for information on Simon. He read recent articles. He studied the details of Simon's current business holdings. He printed nothing. He cleared the browser history. He left the library. He returned to his apartment building after work. He climbed the stairs. He approached his door. He saw that it was not fully closed. It was slightly ajar. He paused. He pushed the door open. He entered. Nothing appeared out of place at first. The furniture was as he left it. The television was there. The books were on their shelves. He walked through the rooms. His filing cabinet in the bedroom was open. The drawer was pulled out. The files inside were neat. They were not disturbed. He kept no important papers there. He went to the bookshelf. He removed the heavy volume. The envelope was gone. The space between the pages was empty. He returned to the main room. On his kitchen table was a single object. It was a business card. The card was thick and white. The engraving was sharp. It read, Simon. Below the name was a phone number and an email address. The office address was in the city's financial district. Thomas turned the card over. The back contained a handwritten note. The ink was a deep black. The handwriting was precise. It said, "Let's discuss old times. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., the Clarendon Club. Come alone or the past will repeat itself with finality." He placed the card back on the table. He checked the door's lock. There was no sign of forced entry. The mechanism was intact. He walked to the window. He looked down at the street. Traffic moved as usual. People walked on the sidewalk. Everything appeared normal. He understood the transaction. They had taken the letter. They had left their own message. The message was not a request. It was an instruction. The final word made the stakes clear. He had no copy of the letter. He had only his memory of its contents. That memory was now a liability. He prepared a simple dinner. He ate at the table. The business card remained beside his plate. He washed his dish. He dried it. He knew the Clarendon Club. It was an exclusive place. He did not own the required clothing. He would need to obtain it. Tomorrow would be a workday. He would need to act normally until the evening. He would need to go to the library again. He would need to research how one gets into the Clarendon Club. He sat in his chair. The apartment was very quiet. The lock on his door no longer meant anything. The space had been entered. The rules had changed. At 8 o'clock, Thomas entered the Clarendon Club. A man in a dark suit led him to a private room. Simon was already there. He stood by a fireplace. He wore a tailored suit. He offered a thin smile. He gestured to a chair. Thomas sat. A waiter brought 2 glasses of water. He left. The door closed. Simon did not mention the break-in. He did not mention the letter. He spoke about the old firm. He acknowledged it was a stressful time. He said many records from that period were incomplete. Then Simon set his glass down. He said he was aware of Thomas's recent discovery. He called it an unfortunate relic. He said such relics could cause pain for everyone involved. "I want to offer a settlement," Simon said, "for your past hardships." He named a sum of money. It was a very large amount. The money was for Thomas's discretion. It was for his complete silence. It would be accompanied by new documentation, a new name, a relocation. Simon smiled. He said the world was a dangerous place. He mentioned Mark. He said Mark had traveled to a country with unstable infrastructure. He said a bridge had collapsed. He said it was a tragic accident. He said some accidents were inevitable. The meaning was clear. The offer was simple. Take the money and the new life, or refuse and risk a different outcome. Thomas listened. He did not speak for a moment. Then he said he had considered the possibility of a discussion. He said that before arriving, he had taken a precaution. He had photographed the letter. He had uploaded the images. He had used a time-delayed service. The images were set to release publicly in 24 hours. The release would only be stopped by a code. Only Thomas possessed that code. Simon's smile did not change. He studied Thomas's face. He nodded slowly. "That is a form of leverage," Simon said. His voice was still calm. "It is also a threat. Threats create instability." "It is not a threat," Thomas said. "It is a condition for my safety." Simon placed his hands together. He said the money was still available. The new identity was still available. But the condition changed the timeline. A decision was required before the 24 hours elapsed. Thomas said he understood. He would consider the offer. He needed to leave now to do so. Simon stood. He said the club's car would take him home. He said Thomas should think carefully. He said some opportunities did not repeat. Thomas left the room. The man in the dark suit led him to a car waiting at the rear of the building. The drive home was quiet. Thomas entered his apartment. The door locked behind him. He had until 8 o'clock the next night to make a choice. The envelope was in his jacket pocket. It contained a cashier's check for the agreed amount. The driver had handed it to him as he exited the car. Thomas entered his apartment. He placed the envelope on the table. He had told Simon he would deactivate the service. He had said he would pack. He would be gone by morning. He opened his laptop. He navigated to the secure email service. He entered his credentials. A red countdown timer showed 14 hours remaining. A single button said deactivate. The instructions were clear. Press the button, enter a final code, and the data would be permanently deleted. His finger rested above the keypad. He did not enter the code. He paused. On the edge of his laptop, a small green light flickered. It was the camera indicator. It glowed for 1 second. Then it went dark. In the lower corner of his screen, a system tray icon appeared. It was a symbol for data transfer. It was not an icon he recognized. It flashed once, a quick pulse of yellow. Then it vanished. Thomas's hand moved away from the keyboard. He closed the laptop lid. He walked to the window. He looked down at the street. The dark sedan was there. It was parked in the same location as before. The headlights were off. He stood at the window for a long time. He watched the car. The car did not move. He returned to the table. He looked at the envelope. He looked at the closed laptop. He looked back toward the window. The meaning of the green light was clear. The meaning of the icon was clear. The car's presence was clear. The deactivation was a test. The system was not just outside. It was already inside the room. It was watching to see if he would comply. His hesitation had likely been noted. The deal required his complete surrender. The check was for silence. The new identity was for disappearance. But the mechanism for enforcement was already active. It would not end when he pressed the button. It would simply change form. Thomas did not open the laptop again. He did not touch the envelope. He sat down in his chair. He faced the window. He could see the dark shape of the sedan below. His expression was still. It showed no specific emotion. But in the set of his shoulders and in his fixed gaze at the car, there was a tension. It was the tension of a man who understands the rules have shifted once more. The game was not over. His apartment was not a sanctuary. His choice was not a true choice. He was waiting, but he did not know for what. Thomas stood from the chair. He walked to the kitchen. He filled a glass with water. He did not drink it. He set it on the counter. He picked up the envelope with a check. He did not open it. He placed it back on the table. The silence in the apartment was a held breath. The normal night sounds were absent. There was no hum from the refrigerator. The pipes were still. He reopened his laptop. The screen glowed in the dark room. He did not return to the email service. He opened his bank's website. He logged in. His balance was unchanged. He logged out. He opened a new browser window. He typed a simple search for travel agencies. He clicked on the first result. He scanned a page about last-minute flights. He did not book anything. He closed the window. He performed these actions slowly. He knew they were being recorded. Every keystroke was a performance for an audience of one or more. He shut the laptop again. The green camera light did not flicker this time. He walked to his bedroom. He opened his closet. He removed a small suitcase. He placed it on the bed. He opened it. He did not put anything inside. He left it there, empty and waiting. He returned to the main room. He stood at the window once more. The dark sedan remained. A faint plume of exhaust rose into the cold air behind it. The engine was running now. He looked at his watch. It was late. He had not eaten dinner. He was not hungry. He sat back down in the chair. He faced the window. He faced the car. He did not blink. The weight of the check was a physical pressure in his pocket. The image of the green light was a persistent stain behind his eyes. The game was not over. A move was expected. A move was required. But every possible move, packing the bag, buying the ticket, deactivating the email, was just another step on a path designed by Simon. Thomas understood this now. His defiance was not in a grand gesture. His defiance was in the stillness. It was in the unbearable weight of the unchosen choice. He would sit there until the countdown inched closer to 0. He would sit there as the system watched. He would wait for the next prompt from the world outside the window. The night continued. The car did not leave. Thomas did not move from the chair.